All right, when we think of black role models in aviation, the Tuskegee Airmen come really easily to mind. They were the first African-American unit to fly combat planes in the United States Armed Forces. One of the original Tuskegee Airmen, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Jefferson of Detroit, recently received the Bronze Star Medal at the age of 94. Colonel Jefferson is featured in an upcoming documentary that looks at his experiences during World War II when the American military was racially segregated and when he became a prisoner of war. Take a look.
Translated to English meaning air gangster, Luftgangster was a name given to American airmen by the Nazi regime during World War II.
Colonel F. Ho!
Alexander Jefferson, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force,
Colonel Right.
retired.
Ho!
I was born in 1921 in Detroit, Michigan. When I joined the 332nd, we flew top cover for B-17s and B-24s. As they went into the bombing run, saw a bomber get hit by flak. The damn thing hit, exploded. I said to myself, damn, I just saw 10 men die. My introduction to war. My 19th mission was where I got shot down.
Bogies coming in, 11 o'clock high. Bubble Blue 3. Bubble Blue 3. This is Bubble Blue 4.
I spent 9 months in Germany as a POW. We were there till April the 29th, 1945. We were liberated by General Patton's Third Army. We're sitting there, somebody said, there's a place down the road with a lot of dead people. What are you talking about? We got a Jeep. About 20 miles down the road, you could smell it before you got to it because the ovens were still warm where they were burning bodies. I saw Dachau, man's inhumanity to man. Whatever you see, whatever you've seen, whatever you can think, double it. And today, someone has the audacity to tell me that the Holocaust never happened. Came back across the Atlantic Ocean by boat, flags waving, Statue of Liberty. Here we come, walking down the gangplank, good thing back home. Bottom of the gangplank, a little white soldier, whites to the right and to the left. God damn it, back home.
Bogies coming in, 11 o'clock high.
And joining me now are 3 members of the Tuskegee Airmen, Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Millben, Master Sergeant Miguel Thornton, and Master Sergeant Alfonso King. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the history of the Airmen. I'm not sure a lot of the young people who are watching would even know what that is or what it's about.
Well, the Tuskegee Airmen and blacks in aviation actually go back to the First World War. People don't know that. Jacques Bullard was the first black fighter pilot, and he flew for the Lafayette Escadrille in France. Could not join the American forces because he was black. Then the Tuskegee Airmen came along, and of course everybody knew they can't fly, and that was proven that they could.
But they could. They were pretty good at it.
And they got very good at it. And they were the most sought after fighter escort unit in the MTO, the Mediterranean Theater of Operations.
Yeah, yeah. Master Sergeant King, talk about how the airmen relate now to sort of young people who are maybe interested but a little tentative about the idea of a career in aviation.
Well, when I came in later and I learned about them. I didn't get it in high school, but the idea was when I went to the service and I ran into Benjamin Davis out in California, and I didn't know who he was until he sat me down and told me who he was and what he did, and I said, I never knew. But you know, but to go back and pick up information about that and start reading on it, the history that they did, you know, I'm on their shoulders. I'm up here trying to carry on the legacy about for these kids here to get out here to be exposed to aviation, which they just don't get that chance, you know.
Yeah. Master Sergeant Thornton, talk about your experience with the airmen. When did you know flying was something you wanted to do?
Well, I knew flying was something I wanted to do when I was 11 years old. right here in Detroit. They had a newspaper called the Detroit Times, and I won a Young Columbus contest, and they flew me to Portugal and Spain.
Oh, really?
And from that point on, the little planes that we had when we were children, that we ran around the yard with a string on, didn't make sense anymore. Okay, and that was the first.
Yeah.
And then after going to Michigan, I entered the Air Force, and I was running track also in the Air Force, and I missed my plane. And in France, there was another plane leaving, the C-130, and they told me if I could catch it on the flight line on the tarmac, I could get up to Germany. So I got on the plane, and I went in to thank the pilot, and it was Don Thomas. He was a major at that time, and that had been my biology teacher. So the dialogue and everything continued,
Right.
and that's how I really got interested in Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about that first time you flew a plane. What was that like?
Well,
Any of it?
If you can just imagine, 19.
We'll let you sort of gloss that over, right?
1953. There was only one terminal at Metro, and it was called the Executive Terminal.
Right.
And to go out there and look at the aircraft, and just amazement of looking at it, and then to get on it afraid. My parents let me go.
Yeah.
But the flight was just so fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what it did was bridge a world that I didn't know. Okay, I found out more about my own culture and history going to Portugal and Spain.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine that that's true now with that connection that you got to make with young people.
One thing that was interesting for me, after graduating from Davis Aerospace, I joined the Air Force, and I got a ride, and it was with the squadron commander. And of course, back in those days, they wanted to take you up and make you sick and all the rest of that stuff. So he was going around doing all the loops and rolls, and I was in the back, and I'm saying, gee, this is the way G feels. I studied this in school. I can't lift my arm. I was having a blast, and he's doing everything in the world to make me sick, and it wasn't working.
I remember when I first got into the service, and I took my first flight going down to San Antonio, and we was up near Minnesota, and we picked up some more troops, and then we got back on the plane, and we got into a thunderstorm. I'm sitting on the wing, by the wing, looking out, and I'm seeing lightning strike the wing, and I'm freaking out. You know, I was like, we're going to crash. You know, my first time on the plane.
Right?
Yeah, the first time on the plane, and not my last time in the plane, you know. But when I got down there to Lackland and the training, they moved me up to Chinook, where we started learning about aircraft. I started understanding why the wing didn't fall off.
Why it didn't crash because of that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Talk about connecting with young people in the city about that history and how important that is to getting them interested in these careers in aviation.
Well, we're trying to counter this precept that everybody has that blacks can't fly, and blacks.
Do you feel like
can't.
that's still
Yes.
something people
Yes.
say and think?
Yes.
Well, I'll give you an example. 2% of the pilots in the Air Force are black.
Is that right? Wow.
2.1% in the Navy are black.
Wow.
We have 44 presidents of the United States, one of which is
One
black.
with the black, right?
2.2%.
Right.
You stand a better chance of becoming the
Of
next
being
black
president.
than you do a pilot.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's critical
Yeah.
that we open the door for everybody who wants, not just blacks, but anybody who wants to get into aviation.
Yeah.
And when I went through, there was no role model in my school. There were those out there. And like Al, I didn't know about them until I read about them in 1955 in a Reader's Digest, and they talked to me about Benjamin O. Davis. It's not taught in school. I didn't know that Hannibal was black.
Yeah.
They don't teach that, or didn't teach that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of stuff. We need, if you take history, you break it down, his story, unless we learn our story,
right?
it's never going to be history.
Yeah. One of the things that's really interesting about this is also how young you can be to get involved. I mean, you don't have to be 18 or 21. You can get young kids involved.
You got 3 guys right back there that go to Davis Aerospace that fly solo by themselves.
Wow.
That's critical.
Yeah.
That means they can fly right now from here to Grand Rapids
On their
and back
own.
on their own but you can't get your dad keys to drive.
They're
there.
not, that's right. They don't have driver's licenses yet, but they can do that.
And then we have a speakers bureau where we go out into the schools and the community to share what's going on. Biblically speaking, going across the Jordan, the Israelites were told to leave stones right by the crossing.
Right.
Okay? And why did they tell them to leave the stones, the 12 tribes? They told them to leave those stones there, so when the people came after them, they would ask, what mean ye these stones? And so that's what we're doing. We've got to keep the legacy alive.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it's only 2.1%.
Yeah.
Okay? Given the population that we have, given the electronics and everything that we have now,
Yeah,
we
well,
keep telling.
and also given the population of African Americans in the military more generally, which is much
much
larger. So
yes.
you've got a pool there that could participate, but they're not.
We don't utilize
And
it.
see, it wasn't until 1960 when the airlines decided to hire black pilots.
Black pilots.
So
yeah.
you see that gap in between them, between 45 to 1960, to get this done, to get pilots in there. They were already qualified, and they didn't want them to be there.
Right.
And the second black pilot, commercial pilot, was Jim Edwards, and he was in our Tuskegee Airmen unit.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
And there were 3 generals to come out of Tuskegee.
That's right.
General Davis, which was the original,
right. Yeah.
General Chappie James, and General Theus. And General Theus lived here in Detroit for, I knew him for 30 years.
Right. Well, and Colonel Jefferson, who I mentioned
Yes,
in the open,
yes.
just awarded the bronze medal.
And Colonel Jefferson and I used to live a block away from one another.
Is that right?
Now just imagine that. You were authorized to receive a Bronze Star in 1947, and you don't
And
receive
you get it in
until
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot to overcome
Yeah.
still.
And
Why
then
is that?
Yeah,
one other thing, the first airmen to win Top Gun were Tuskegee Airmen.
Is that right?
The first.
See, there you go.
Okay.
These are the things we got to share.
And then the
with,
trophy was
people.
lost for years and years and years.
Actually,
Right,
50
yeah.
years.
Yeah. No, I remember when they found that, and
Right.
we had him on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank
And
you for having
for
us.
everything that you